Questions, comments, thoughts? You said what?
Oh, I was going to just say that last thought, that we don't like what makes us uncomfortable. And I think that's so much about this fight against the 1619 Project. And when I picked up a book called The New Jim Crow and read that, and it's so horrible to look at. So how do you, when you're dealing with this in a classroom with kids, how do you look at these horrible, horrible events that happened and teach them without upsetting kids? I mean, there's a certain amount of upsetting that's probably normal, but you know what I mean? Without it being too disturbing. How do you handle that with high school kids?
Well, I mean, again, just like you said, right? Think of our, COVID policy, national policy, right? People have said, well, we're going to have some casualties, but we have to move on with life. That's essentially what they said. And essentially, we look at our history curriculum very similar, right? There's going to be some uncomfortableness. I think the biggest thing is letting students understand that this is a very disturbing part of history. I am a believer in and if students want to opt out of certain aspects like lynching or other aspects that they can, in terms of, hey, there's going to be some visual aspects. I did that when I was in K-12 classrooms. Hey, if you want to, go sit in so-and-so's class for a little bit and come back and talk about those particular things, I am good with that. The thing I haven't really thought clearly about, and Bettina Love, talks about this, is that if you're going to do violence, you have to be ready for the healing, right? So I haven't really thought about, well, how does that look in an educational environment, classroom environment through Black history? But history is psychologically violent. I think there's certain appropriate things, right, that may not need to be explored based on the grade level. But I do believe that there's going to be just violence, and I'm a firm believer opt-outs, for certain things. Not opt out of the class, but opt out of certain aspects of, the course, particularly if it's psychologically, too psychologically damaging. But I mean, the biggest thing is, hey, in the beginning of class, this is what we're going to do. These are the things that we're going to talk. It's no holds barred to a certain extent, right? And prepare the students. I think the students can handle it. When people say students can't handle it, sometimes these people, and sometimes I challenge them, right? Because many of them are Christian. And I say, well, when's the first time you learned about the crucifixion of Jesus? And they'll say something really young. Well, you handled that, and that's a very violent story. Nails being hammered into your hand, and the crown of the cross, and the walking, and the physical abuse, the whole that. If that's not one of the most violent stories ever in history, you tell me different. So if people can handle that, or your kids can handle that in Sunday school, why can't they handle that in public school? It's just a thought. Any other questions or conversational pieces?
So, Dr. King, one of the challenges that we run into, I mean, we're in a highly conservative county. I mean, we are in the middle of Trump country here. And anytime in my career when we've attempted with staff, attempted with kids, families to even touch on the concept of white privilege, we get just incredible amounts of pushback and furor, and I, in my my opinion on that is, I think part of that is because they feel like they're being told to feel shame.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I always try to counter with, nobody's telling you that you have to feel shame.
Mm-hmm.
We're just asking you to acknowledge that it's there. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge that it exists and look for it in systems that you're involved in, and then try to counteract it. I am anticipating a similar, maybe not quite to the level, but we're going to get some similar type pushback and furor when we roll out these courses. Mm-hmm. And having been more intimately involved in this work, what suggestions do you have for us in being prepared for that, and being able to kind of meet people where they are and hold their hand and bring them forward?
Do we have to use that particular verbiage? Right? It's like, do we have to use that particular verbiage, or can we use other type of, terminology to kind of get to that? Right?
Any. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there has to come a time, right, where you have to have strong leadership from the building level as well as from the central office level, and say, this is what we're going to do, right? It's tough because, you just have to have someone that says, this is the approach that we're going, and this is the reason why we're doing this, right? And then just kind of move on from there, I mean, if it's something where you have to not utilize verbiage of white privilege, or, whatever the case may be, then don't use the verbiage. But the point is the same. The aspects of our society is not always equal. And this is the reason why it's not always equal. So if it's possible to write the curriculum and the standards in a way that says, this is our curriculum, and all we're doing is going back to the curriculum, right? This is what we're doing. We're going back to the standards. I'm not against having parent universities where, the point of the matter is, we're going to educate the parents on what we're doing in school. So if you're really concerned about this new Black History program that we have, why don't you come to our parent university on October 15th? And this is what we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss this curriculum and the things that we're going to talk about in the curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I see, because, I mean, a lot of times when it comes, sometimes it's about, not being bullied, particularly when you understand that we're not doing anything wrong, right? We're not doing anything wrong. What we're doing is, this is the purpose of social studies. Lay out the purpose of social studies. Lay out the reason why this is part of social studies. Lay out the standards. These are the standards. This is the curriculum. Lay out the curriculum. And you have to have strong leadership to back you up. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you got to throw out the words, right? Because somebody wanted to do that at the University of Missouri and rename our undergrad program or something like that. It was something, teaching social justice or something like that. I'm like, do we really have to call it teaching social justice? Because all we're doing is bringing attention to ourselves. Just social studies, and we teach it through a social justice lens. Right? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, if it's not verbiage that's gonna, sound those alarms, then that's a casualty, for the school district. But you can still get things accomplished, in a critical fashion.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off that, what he said about the verbiage. So I came from Illinois last year, And as we know, kind of the political climate is different there than it is here in Missouri. Mm-hmm. And I was hesitant to use some of that verbiage also, because I am a Black teacher, and how it looks compared to what I talk about white privilege, and then a white teacher says it looks different to some parents. And I know here in Missouri, I'm not about to use that verbiage here in my classroom because I am in a different political climate, and and just I just wanted to comment when he said that. I understand the pushback that you guys are afraid of. I'm afraid of it too.
Yeah. But I think there's a good I like to Lee Atwater said the Republicans had to change their strategy because you just can't go out there saying the N-word, so you got to say other stuff to get the message across, right? So we just have to find different ways to get our message across.
Luke, I have been teaching the way I've been teaching and really kind of what's become popular now for like 10 years. So I have been teaching about white privilege almost every year in all my classes, like whether it's world or U.S. history. And I'll admit, a lot of times I got sweat rolling down my back. I'm like, how many parent calls is my principal going to get tomorrow? I think the biggest thing that teachers need is they have to be courageous. Like, they have to know if they're teaching this class, they have to be brave. And it's got to be more important to them to do the right thing than to just not have pushback.
Right.
And then the second thing is to have supportive administration. Because I've been teaching these things, and the amazing thing is kids are way more open, but then they go home and they tell their parents, and then their parents get upset. But I think as long as I've always taken the approach, and I spend the first week of my history, all of my history classes, talking about perspective, and that in this class, we are going to examine multiple perspectives, because that's how we truly understand and build a narrative of history. And we're not just going to look at one. I don't advertise to my students when I'm teaching U.S. history that sometimes I would consider myself the anti-U.S. history teacher, because I want to make sure all those voices that are silenced also get brought up in my class. So yeah, a lot of it is verbiage and how you do it, but a lot of it's just being courageous and having the support from the administration. And even though I think we get really scared about parent pushback, it's never as much as you think it is. And I have always had more support than pushback. Like, occasionally I get pushback, but the people that know this change needs to happen also speak up that support for you as well. So just my 2 cents worth.
Yes. Yeah, I think Luke kind of see parent pushback as the electoral college. You don't need everybody to push back, but there's certain, but only a few. A few kind of people who push back is extremely important. But no, the key is support. If you have the administrative support to do your thing, right, that's the key. And another thing, and this kind of goes back to who teaches the class, you have to have somebody that's knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have somebody that's knowledgeable. If you don't have someone that's knowledgeable, then you're setting that person up for failure.
I agree, and I think for us, we've got to our kids, they deserve like a true picture, a complete picture, and I don't know that we've provided that. I know we have not provided that. And when Dr. King speaks of support, I know our students have been asking for this course for years, and they've been pushed to the side for years. And I think that that's doing them an injustice. And and we're in a special place now where we have a board that just passed a resolution against racism. And so when you stand up there and make these proclamations, and you have students asking for curriculum that represents a complete picture, and then you start to get the pushback, you can go back to this resolution that your board has made, and then that provides support for the administrators to say, no, we're moving forward. And we're in that sweet spot time. And so in my mind, these courses need to be written now and get them to our students toot sweet.
And I think that the time is now, and I also think that if our superintendent and all the people at the district level can really stand strong and have responses ready when all the bullshit flies, because there will be bullshit. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready, and you have to have all the right answers, because I believe our parents really look to the school district as a parental role. Mm-hmm. There are so many of our parents that really trust and respect the district. And so if you take on that role and you say, this is what's best for our students and these are the reasons why, they're going to take it.
Yeah. And this is, we're not selling elixir. This is truth.
Yeah.
We're give them standards-based truth. And yes, we will have the responses. And I think that at times we are in a very conservative county. We all know that. And sometimes I think we have deferred to letting that stop progress.
Yeah.
We let noise keep progress from moving forward. And so this is the time. We have the resolution, we have the leadership of the superintendent. And so now is the time. So thank you for being here, Dr. King. And now let's get going.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to, in honor of time, we told that this was just our tip of the iceberg day, and really just building a bit of foundation that we are so thankful for. I'm sure there are many other questions and thoughts and ideas, but I want to make sure we honor and respect everyone's time as well. Dr. King, we cannot thank you enough for this critical partnership and for your leadership. And your expertise is just it's just so wonderful to work with you and to have this time to help all of us grow and learn and move through this process together. And we really want to do it right. We want to take the time and take the steps to ensure what's best for our kids.
Thank you. Great.
Any other final thoughts for go to the group? And Dr. King, I didn't know if you had something you wanted to end us out with otherwise, if there is any other questions?
Dr. King, I had a real quick question. I do apologize, sir. You had, I don't know if we're going to get access to this PowerPoint, but I was trying to take notes, and in historical uniformity, you talked about white history and blackface, and I have historical integration, and I didn't get your kind of synopsis of that, and I just wanted to ask that real quick.
So historical integration includes Black people in a narrative, and it may be kind of situated as Black history, but it doesn't alter the historical trajectory.
Thank you.
The narrative is very similar. Yeah, I believe I'm recording it, so you should have access to it.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch with you, Dr. King, very soon.
Yeah, I think we have something in October.
The 13th. Yes.
Right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
October 13th, sure.
October 13th.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. King. Thanks,
Thank
Sherry.
you.
Bye-bye.